talk about chemistry, 'cause I'm dying to melt.
So we'll start the first question, which will be what does Sleep Token mean to us, or at least represent to us? Do you want to go first, or do you want me to go first?
I'd be happy to start with that. Sure.
All right, sure. Let's go. Do it. Send it.
Yeah. Sure. So the biggest thing that Sleep Token means to me, I would say, is they've been more than anything a real catharsis for me. Because initially when Sundowning first came out, and I was We the World, we were all being drip fed the album every 2 weeks. I just found like another realm of music I could escape in, and aside from all the lore and the mystique of the band, which I got swept up in absolutely, because I'm a sucker for theatrics. At its core, I started to realize that a lot of these songs were about heartbreak, and I had plenty of heartbreak in spades. I was going through a real depressive episode during between 2017 and 2019, and I never really found like an appropriate outlet to let everything go until Sleep Token came into my life, and it's been a really helpful tool for me to process my feelings about certain people and certain things, and it's also just inspired me to be a better musician. Like, ever since I've heard the band, like, I've noticed like I've been pushing myself to be a better singer and a better drummer, and I'm a much better musician for it, and so that's one thing I'm really thankful for them for as well.
Yeah. Well said, dude. Well said. I love the honesty in that too. And would you say that kind of plays into the mask that you wear for the band though, as well, for In Vanity? Did that a little bit influenced by it, or is that something you had sort of? Because I always wondered, was that something that Sleep Token helped push for you? Was that something that you had in mind before you started getting into Sleep Token?
Yeah. So funny you actually mentioned that. So it was like, I think it was 1 or 2 weeks after we filmed the music video for Burn. I think you wrote an article on Sleep Token, and I had no idea what was going on. And then I found some more pictures and live videos, and I went, oh, okay. I guess I would say where mine and Vessel's purpose for the mask sort of differ is his Vessel's is obviously one to mask his identity, but it'll also be like a real be a real eye catcher, and be like a real be like a real symbol that that the audience can look to for like the whole cult imagery. Whereas me, the purpose of mine, me wearing my mask, was more just to add an externalized representation of how I interpret my music, and also what's going on internally. So when we were writing Notice Tollins, that was a really angry record, and I just felt like having a mask inspired by kintsugi, which is a Japanese pottery method repair.
Yeah, what's broken can be repaired. But it still has the cracks. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like so I just wanted to show that I've gone through all this shit, but I've still got it together. I'm still alive.
Yeah. I didn't know that about the mask. That's a cool metaphor. I like, the kintsugi thing is really interesting. I know there's a beautiful Monument song with the same name that deals with it, but there's also that old Death Cab for Cutie album from like 2014, 2015. That's also called Consigue. I think that was the first time I heard about that phrase. It's a cool little like philosophy. I think it's very like wholesome. It's very I don't know. I want to say like uplifting. Like doesn't matter what you've been through, you can coalesce yourself and pull it all back together.
Yeah.
That's cool. Don't think there's anything else to jump off for that. Did you want to add anything else, or do you want me to do my side?
Yeah. I think
Cool. Sleep Token, when it comes to, for me, what they mean and represent, I don't necessarily connect with the heartbreak side of it because I've had the same partner for 9 years. So like I haven't had like the last time I had like a breakup, like I was a much younger person. I was a much different person. So it's like I can't really connect to it on that. But what Sleep Token represented for me though, I think is like the future. For a lot of this music scene, like not just in like the hybridization of musical styles, but in the way that it is presented. Because the way I think of Sleep Token and how people want to like understand them and figure them out, it reminds me of like kids in like the early 2000s who were into Slipknot, and they were like, who are all these people? Like, what do they look like? Like, is this even their real names? One of them's called Clown and he jacks himself off. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, it's one of those things where it's like there's that intrigue, and I think and it's really cool how like I think they're one of the few masked bands that I think does it well in this current modern era, and I like how I personally don't really care who they are as like people, like what their names are. That doesn't really change anything about the music for me. But for me, they represent what bands like Loathe and Spirit Box do, and that's like just a really exciting new band that feels like legitimately fresh, and it makes it such a joy to not just listen to, but to then like talk about as well. I think like what was the first thing you would have heard was during Sundowning, was that the first thing you heard from them? Yeah.
Yeah. So, the first thing I ever heard was The Night. Then I went back to your article and I watched Calcutta.
Yeah. So, yeah, the first thing I heard was Calcutta back in, like, 2017, whenever the 2 EP came out. I love that EP. It's, like, just, like, 3 tracks, but it's like, such a good representation of them as a band that they have this, like, really lovely dynamic. This really chill, beautiful side to it, but then also they can do like prog metal, djenty kind of stuff like it's no biggie, and it's a really cool. It's a really cool dynamic that they have, and I think I think what I like, why I don't necessarily like personally connect on a really deep level to the metaphor of the lyrics being all about a relationship ending and heartbreak and whatnot. I do really like how they kind of capture that. They put it under this really interesting allure of like the supernatural, like in Alkaline, or something that's a bit more like sinister, like in Jaws or Jericho, and then other times just like kind of as this Sundowning metaphor to come into how they treat different songs like that. I think it's such like it's again like a lot of their facets of their music are very refreshing in a lot of way, and I think that's just what I find so exciting about them. So yeah, so expectations for the new album. Expectations. What are you expecting from it? Like on any kind of level?
Well, just based on what I've seen, like in recent live footage of the band, one thing I'm really hoping for is Vessel to incorporate more screaming in the songs, because like Wild Gods was such an incredible taste of that. Like it really left me wanting more, and seeing Vessel like going more for it in subsequent live performances, like I can only hope that we get even more aggression, but purely based on what I've heard in Alkaline is like more properly is yeah. I'd say like just leaning like even more into the like the electronic twinger things. And I know for certain one track is going to be like at like 100% nothing like anything that I've done before, but because this is spoiler free, I won't say what it is. And the one thing like I'm really keen to delve into is all the like the aquatic themes and imagery. Like there's a like on the single artwork for Alkaline, it's like an anglerfish, and not sure if you noticed, but on the so they've done pre-order items, and on a windbreaker, it's got artwork. It's got artwork of like dead fish, and at the very bottom of the windbreaker, it's got coordinates on it. And if you look up the coordinates, it leads to an underwater volcano off the coast of America.
That's pretty cool.
That's I'm wondering if there'll actually be like a narrative, like that actually has to do with like water, how we connect to water, or even if like the mythology of sleep, like what is his connection to the water? Like was he born of the earth and came out of the water? I don't know.
I think one thing I like about the title, "This Place Will Be Your Tomb," as well, is it's almost like this dark sunken place that you fall into. So I imagine like there'll be a bit of like an emotional ebb and flow to the record of you fall into it, but then there's also the rise as you leave out of it as well, which reminds me a lot of Deep Blue by Parkway Drive, how that album's concept goes. So I think that would be really interesting. I feel like if there's one band that can kind of do like an interesting like metaphor or narrative, Sleep Token's definitely one of them. I'm also glad that they're not redoing the new track every 2 weeks or whatever it was. I think that was a really cool thing to do once. Maybe no need to like redo it again. Because the drip feed was cool, but sometimes you got songs where you're like, oh, just like you get like Give or Take Aim, you're like, oh, that's cool, but like I need to hear the whole thing, and like especially as you get near the end, you start getting really antsy for it. So yeah, I'm glad it's going to kind of come out, I guess, all at once outside of singles. I think what I'm expecting, like with Alkaline, I was like, this is going to start off with like vocals and synths, electronic drums, then the real drums kick in, then there'll be more of like a metal finish. That's basically what the song is. So I went in with like, I can kind of guess the formula for Alkaline. And while I was correct, I still really enjoyed it. And I think that's very telling of how the band's able to blend all of this stuff, but make it work really well. And, some bands can do that, some bands can't. But I think what's cool about Sleep Token is because there's not a preconceived notion about who the people are in the band. There's therefore this, I don't want to say like limiting, but there's no limit or boundary on the music itself, because you're not thinking, oh cool, this is going to sound like their other band or their other project. It can kind of, it is separate as its own entity. So I think that's really cool. I agree with you. I would love to see a little bit more screaming. Though this time, I hope the instrumental that accompanies it isn't just Goon Squad by Deftones. Because like when I heard it, I was like, oh, this sounds like a Deftones track. I can't remember which one it was. And I went to the comments, and immediately someone was like, this sounds like this song from Koi no Yoken. I'm like, fuck, it does, doesn't it? But like the Deftones influence, you can't really escape with Sleep Token. It's like a lot like with Loathe. Like there's such a huge key influence that that you can't really get around it. But I'm hoping we see a bit more screams, because I also liked it in like, you see it a bit like at the end of The Offering as well, where he's like taking into this like harsher, grittier tone of his voice. And the guy's got such an immaculate vocal range and technique that like it's like, you always like, I expect that he's going to still sound like he's about to cry at any given second, like he's about to just break down into wailing tears. But like I think that works. It kind of adds to the emotional characteristic and the just like inviting nature of the songs. I'm kind of expecting a lot more synths, like a lot more electronica, like definitely, and I'm expecting a lot of old mates grooves on the drums. I'm expecting just like it to just be like just choppy, groovy city the whole time, which I'm keen for. Guy's got such a good sense of rhythm and timing. It's fucking sick.
He really does.
I'm expecting. So you say you kind of said it like there's one kind of song that is very different from them. And that's what I'm hoping to do. That like we don't just get songs that kind of replicate The Offering and Higher in structure, where it's like like Levitate, where it's like there's always that one big crescendo at the end. Like that's something they do a lot of. And I'm kind of hoping that like we see a little bit more than just that, than like just repeating some of the same structures. Because as I said, there's such like a talented group that I feel like they could do a lot of different things and it would work, or at least be, at the very least interesting.
Yeah.
Did you watch that Alkaline footage from Download?
Yes.
So one thing that they had there was that they had the 3 masked singers on the if you're looking at the stage on the right side to Vessel's left, and I saw that and I thought, and it reminds me a lot of like in Levitate they have like the kind of churchy kind of gospel vocal harmonies, and I think it'd be really cool. So maybe it was just something that was used to do songs like that live, but I'm kind of hoping that it goes more into like creating these bigger vocal arrangements. I feel like that's I feel like I could just hear that alongside Vessel's voice and how they interweave all these different parts. Like they do that already really well with a lot of their other melodies and a lot of their other instrumentation. So I don't think it would be too far fetched to hear them do it in a vocal sense too.
Yeah. So the 3-piece choir. They do. They do almost every UK performance with them. So when Sleep Token did their UK tour before COVID, the 3-piece choir, they were with them for every show. It's just like what you said, and because like there are a lot of like harmonies and extra layers within Alkaline. And if you listen carefully, like that's what they're there to do. Like they're there to like organically replicate all the layers that Vessel put into the into the vocal arrangements.
I think another thing too with Sundowning was that there wasn't really like a music video for any of the tracks. I don't think there was that one for the piano rendition of Bloodsport.
Yeah,
like that was, and which works. So it's just Vessel, and you can kind of just do it with like one person. You don't need to have any other elements. But I like that like Alkaline had this cool like supernatural action flick kind of vibes that represented the really like dark nature of the song. But also, or at least like I should say, the music, the lyrics itself, I think are actually really quite beautiful. Being about like accepting someone for whether they're alkaline or not, whether they're black or white or not, like accepting someone that you love with, I guess it has like a romantic edge to it, but which is interesting too. That's another thing I kind of hope. I hope that the new record is like not just a metaphor for heartbreak, that it goes a little bit further with that. And as I said before, if like what I anticipate the thematic or emotional narrative of the record, I hope that kind of flows into that a bit as well. But one thing, so I'm hoping we see some more music videos, because I feel like you've got such a interesting musical sound bed that you can do. You could do a lot of different visual stuff with it, like that. Like if you heard Alkaline, would you guess? Oh, the video for this is going to be like out of like a supernatural horror thing, like Vessel wielding Jedi powers to kill a bunch of like masked suited dudes and use like a and summon out a spider or something like. I don't think you'd jump to that conclusion, So, yeah, I think stuff like that they could the visual aspect of Sleep Token's already there with the masks and the hoods when they play live. So I think they could incorporate that a lot into videos as well. 25 minutes, cool. Yeah, do you want to add anything about like expectations or anything you want to, what you might think the record could go in any other sense? How do you okay, here's a question though. Do you think that, obviously we both expect to like it, like, you know,
Yeah.
like I'd probably die a little bit inside if it was a bad album. Like, it's like how, it's like one of those, like, I love Sundowning so much that if this, it's like how I feel about, new music from Northlane or Lingua Ignota or, you know, The Armed or Rollo Tomasi. Like, if they were to put out new music this year or next, or I guess, yeah, definitely for The Armed, they just put out an album, but like Rollo Tomasi are planning an album this year, and I'm like, that's their last album is my favorite record of the 2010s, my, you know, one of my all-time favorite albums. So I'm like, if this is bad, this new one, I'm going to like die a little bit inside. Like, it's going to hurt that much. So I'm like, come on, Sleep Token, you can do it. Send it for the lads. So I like, obviously we expect to like it, but do I feel like do you think that, like, how do you think a fan base would respond to not just a record that's familiar and expected, but also one that might be quite different? Because I feel like Sleep Token have very open-minded fans.
Based on what you just said, I reckon the fan base reaction can just be summed up in one word: worship.
Yeah. That's true. Like, I've seen people who say, "Oh, I don't really care for gods," but like they don't mean it in like a nasty way. Like, you know what I mean? Like they just seem to seem to have a very. I do think Sleep Token, same as Spirit Box, have a very like they have a very passionate, but also sometimes very sycophantic fan base, where it's like, and I could definitely see both fan bases, or at least both, you know, Sleep Token's fan base kind of lashing out at if someone was to say, oh, you know, was to review the record and say, I don't really like, you know, I don't think this is very good at all. Here's why, blah, blah, blah. I could see a lot of people like kind of dogpiling those posts and just being like, nah, this album's sick, I don't know what you're talking about, and just like shouting them down. But I feel like, like when you have like, I think because there is such like a weird fetishization of heavy music where it's like, I think it comes down to like the way people respond to music, where it's like, if it's super heavy, then that suddenly makes it like a perfect song. Do you know what I mean? Like, people will go like, oh, it had such a good breakdown, and that's kind of all they took away from a track. So I feel like with Sleep Token fans though, like both sides of the band, both of their sounds are so widely accepted in a lot of ways. Like, how many people, like, you know, people seem to love Bloodsport, both versions of it, but you wouldn't call the album version of it like as heavy as Gods or The Offering or the end of Higher or whatnot, you know. But people still connect with it because it's fucking real, really. It's a legit song.
Yeah, like it's not as it's not as musically heavy as those songs, but like it's just as emotionally heavy.
Yeah, like there's that part where it's like, somewhere, you're like, oh yes, Daddy Vessel, fucking oh, it's so good. And I hope that we see a bit more of like just that really like low earthy tone that he's got. He just pulls it out so well, and like Bloodsport's a great example of that. I kind of hope would you hope for a feature? This is one thing I thought about. A band like Sleep Token, I don't think that you'd want to have a featured artist in there. Like, I assume maybe like, you know, if you had like a producer you were working with, or maybe even like a ghostwriter, because, you know, metal and heavy music does have plenty of ghostwriters in it. But just as I would argue, just as many as pop. Like, I won't put this particular part in, but like Andy Marsh from Thy Art Is Murder, he's ghostwritten so many solos for like Amity and as I understand it, even Parkway as well, even for Jeff and Luke from Parkway. Like, he's written stuff for them. Like, he filled in for Jeff when they did the Reverence tour a few years ago. Because he knows, loves and knows their songs, but like he's ghostwritten for some artists. So he didn't, you know, he's told me he's done some artists that have done some pretty big top spots. So I wouldn't be surprised if there was like a Northlane or an In Heart's Wake or some other Unified stuff, maybe even a Polaris situation as well. Like I wouldn't be surprised, or even some American stuff. So yeah, so there's just so many ghostwriters. So yeah, would you want to feature on a Sleep Token song, or do you think it would have to be such like a specific, such a curated feature that it would have to fit so well into them that it's be a weird one, I think.
Yeah, honestly, like I'm not sure that they'd ever want to go down that route. Unless of course it's like more of a supporting role. So like I mean, like if the 3-piece choir were to ever come on and do a feature for a song like that, that'd make sense to them because they're a part of the they're a part of the mythology. But yeah, I just can't see anybody else coming in because like within the Sleep Token universe, like you have your specific players. So you've got Vessel, 2, 3, 4, and the choir. And just having an external party come in and contribute something to that and have them be a feature, it just wouldn't make sense because they're not of that universe, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I think I agree with that honestly. Like you would need to be someone already a part of or so integral to the mythos or to the musical construction that you would, you couldn't as I said, like you couldn't just have Matt from Kubla Khan on it, or you couldn't have Courtney from Eve from Spirit Box or Kadeem from Loathe. You would need to have, it would have to be such like a special person. Like you wouldn't even have Chino from Deftones. Like you couldn't pull that off. You couldn't have. What I could see, because Sundowning had a re-release of some sort. I could see a re-release. Could you see a re-release of This Place Will Be Your Tomb down the line, like a few months after the record, or even in 2022, of remixes? Because I could feel like the electronic, like there's already a precedent for the electronic nature of Sleep Token by the instrumentation and the different stuff they do with their production. So already, I feel like you could have someone like a Purity Ring or a Health, someone in that realm, like a Perturbator or something like that, come in and rejig a lot of those songs and make something cool out of it. That was a very loud notification.
Sorry.
That's all right. So yeah, is that something you can see happening, or do you think it's one of those one of those things maybe even best left not to be done? That is a very interesting thing to consider. Just off the top of my head, I would be very interested to see if by some miracle Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross got their hands on a Sleep Token song and they did their spin on it. Yeah,
like that'd be cool. But aside from that, it's just. Yeah. It's what you said. It's better left untouched.
Mm. Yeah, cool. I think that's a good place to leave it there for the first part. I'll let Tim know that we nutted out like a half-hour thing for it, and then we'll fucking hopefully get the record and listen to it a whole bunch, and then we'll go through we'll come back to the expectation part of it. Like, was there features? Was there any screaming? Do we, hopefully we like it, all that kind of stuff, favorite songs, and then maybe kind of rank it a bit against Sundowning, a bit of a comparison, and maybe also then kind of talk about where does this stand for us personally in our albums of the year and whatnot. Because by the time it comes out in September, we're going to be getting into that final run of 2021. I almost said 2020. But honestly, both 2020 and 2021 feel like the same year. Just it's 2021 feels like the electric boogaloo of 2020. So yeah, man. Thank you for jumping on and doing this with me, Ollie. I appreciate it. I think Tim had the right idea to get to maybe get you and Ollie because you're both massive Sleep Token nerds.
Not keep the freak show talk to a careful minimum.